Morning, everyone. It's raining here, and so I hope you can hear me. Let's think of the raindrops as our background music. Morning, I hope you're all blessed. I hope you're all doing well. This morning, I want to share something that I feel is important with you about relationships. So we all know that relationships need work. Relationships require a lot of work. But instead of thinking about relationships, the bulk of it needing work and procrastinating and just never knowing how to do the work or how to get to it, let's break it down into smaller pieces. Now, in our workplaces, this is how we get things to work. When you set a goal, it's not the totality of the goal, but it's how you can break it down into smaller pieces and achieve them in a more realistic way, in a way that is comfortable to you and achievable. Okay, so here we go. How do we work on relationships? I'm going to pick it from a very small angle, and I hope you hear me out. I know that some of you do speak to me about your relationships. I want to thank you for having trust in me with your most sensitive matters and for trusting my judgment by God's grace according to those matters. I want you to know this recording and many that will follow this is not in any way to judge anything that any of you may have told me. So this message is not being triggered by a conversation I had with someone who is either in a crisis or needing day-to-day support in their marriage or relationship to avoid a crisis. This is not related. Some of the things I will say might be triggers, but we need to discuss these things. So please bear with me. Some of the things I'll talk about might be triggers. Depending on what you've been through, it might be a trigger. I want to apologize ahead of time, and I hope that we can listen to this as objectively as possible. So step outside of the discussion. Don't see yourself as the one being spoken to, but just as an observer. Because if you're not open to hear what I'm saying, it will be of no effect to you. It will be of no effect to you. Okay. So for example, let me give you a scenario. Let's say you speak to somebody, you speak to your partner about an issue, and the response you get from them is not favorable. You either get an angry response from them, or you get, either way, a very emotionally charged response from them. Not positive. Let's think about this. What do you think made them respond that way? Because you and I know, we surely know, people are not anger machines walking around. People are not sobbing, crying machines walking around. You know, we human beings are triggered by our environment. It's either a trigger immediately or a trigger a few hours ago, days ago, months ago, or even years ago. There is always a trigger for our responses. Always. Things do not come out of the blue. So please pay attention to this. Things do not come out of the blue. There's always a trigger, a reason. Okay. Now, you get this response from them. You're really needing to communicate with them, and you want them to communicate back. So you get this unhelpful response from them. What do you do with this? Hear me. It's either the way you ask the question, and sometimes we're innocently asking questions. What I'm sharing is really deep. So the best way to make use of what I'm sharing today is to pay attention. I don't always say this, but I'm saying this to help you. The best way to benefit from what I'm sharing today is if you make time and pay attention to listen. If you pick up pieces of it, it might not make sense to you, or you might not make full use of it. Okay, firstly, you ask your partner a question about something important. The response you got was either angry or they even got to crying. Bottom line, it was very emotionally charged. What happened here? It could be you got them at a time where they were already going through something that caused that response. And sometimes you can be observant as you want to be, but you may not realize that someone is in that state of mind until you speak to them and you require them to speak back. It could also be that you guys were in a conversation before you asked that question, and how that conversation was going is the reason they are responding that way. It could also be that you're asking a good question, but you're asking it in the wrong way. No judgment here. When I say wrong way, I don't mean you intentionally asked the question in the wrong way. I'm saying whether you are aware of it or not, you may have asked this question in the wrong way. There is quite a few reasons why someone's response could be like that. Either they were yelling at you, or they were crying, or they said, this is too private for me to disclose to you. Like, whatever the response was that wasn't favorable to you. There are many reasons, not the reasons you want to quickly jump on. Please hear me. Not the reasons that you quickly want to assume. Not the reasons you think you know because you know men or you know women. But there are reasons for every reaction. Until we unlearn a lot of the things we know. I don't know what age you are watching me, but dating and marriage, as the years progress, is not easy. It should get easier. We should be wiser, so that when you meet somebody in your 40s, you should be wiser than when you were in your 30s or 20s. But it doesn't work that way. Because there are also factors that work in the other direction. Sometimes by the age of 40, you think that you know men very well because you've dated some, you've dealt with some. You think that you know when a man says something or takes an action, you know what it means because of the majority of men that you've known. Or when a woman says something or behaves a certain way, you feel like you know the reason for it because of other women that you've dealt with. But there are many, many, many character traits in all of us. You can't pin it. It's like a fingerprint. The collective of what a person is not cookie cutter. It's not, they're not like this or like that. Human beings are complex. You are complex. Your partner is complex. That's what makes us humans and not animals. And we also evolve. We change as we grow. So even if you've been with the person for months or years, the reason they say something or act a certain way doesn't mean what it meant last year. It doesn't mean what it meant last week. We are constantly growing and changing. Okay, so let's take it back again. So you've asked this thing of your partner. The response you got was not favorable. And then, wait for it. And then you go and talk to a friend. Especially a friend that you think you look up to for relationship advice. God bless those friends. But listen, if you're gonna work something serious, you, your partner, and God, I'm telling you, like I know. People don't want to put in the work in relationships. I know it's hard. But the way I see it, a lot of people don't want to put in the work. We love to complain. It's easier, I know. So you go talk to this friend and they tell you from their experiences what they also think your partner's response or action actually meant. So between you and the person you're talking to, or God forbid, but it happens a lot, between you and the many people that you talk to about this, you are all using your ideas based on previous experiences you've had to assume that you know why the person talked that way or behaved that way. Do you see where you're failing? And this is why a lot of people in their 40s are not great in relationships, because we start this at, well, most people in your 20s, And we're learning. It's great. Then your 30s, if you're not fortunate to be settled down and married, by the time you hit your 40s, you think you're a guru. You think you're a professional. You know it all about men or about women. Your friends also think the same. This is the complexity of dating and marriages in our 40s. If you can't put in the work, why are you expecting success? Do you see how much work you put in your jobs and your businesses? Your relationship is like a baby that you have. You know, it's not about you or about your partner. There is a third entity that is created in your marriage or relationship. There is a third party in between. That's called the relationship or the marriage. You know, and whatever both of you are doing, you're either winning together. That means you're nurturing this marriage or relationship, or you're losing. It's not about you alone winning or your partner winning. That's not the aim here. There is something else or someone you're taking care of, nurturing. And that thing, its success is what makes both of you successful. I have not had my morning tea. I'm taking my morning walk, but that tea has not gone in yet. So if I'm recording this right now, you should know it's important. And it's raining here. That's how important this is that I share with you. You know, the family unit was designed by God as a training ground to learn more about God, to be more like Jesus. You know, to attain that perfection slowly a day. Your two imperfect selves will come together and you're learning and growing. You're making your mistakes, but you're learning and growing. So give a chance for mistakes, but be willing, be humble enough to know when you have made a mistake and own up to it. And when your partner has made a mistake, be kind about how you tell them, and really from your heart be open to hear the reason why it happened and how both of you can work on it and do it better the next time. Otherwise, why are you in the relationship? Why would a person take years of their life and waste it in a thing called a relationship or a marriage? If you don't need it, if you don't need it to be successful, why are you in it? Why are you in it? Because we humans don't waste our time. So let's stop the nagging. Let's stop the complaining. Let's stop the bickering and calling friends and family. Look within yourself. See, if each of you can look within yourself each time and honestly ask yourself, how did I contribute to this thing that happened to us? If you are doing it and your partner is doing it, do you see how successfully you slowly become in your relationship or marriage? It takes work. It takes work. I can't say this loud enough. It takes work. The family unit is designed so you have your peace. If you don't have your peace in the relationship or the marriage, where are you going to find the peace? Out there? If you cannot build trust at home with your partner, is it out there with the people that you don't see them daily and know their actions daily? Is that where you think you can have trust? So if your relationship or marriage is not working out, you are ruined. I've said this in a different recording. The number of years you're going to spend in a marriage is much more than what you spend in school or a career. Marriage is a maker or breaker. Yeah. If you can't put in the work, don't get into relationships. Don't try to get into a marriage, because you're wasting your own time. And sadly, I say this kindly, but I have to say it. Sadly, you're wasting somebody else's time. Somebody who may be ready to do half the work, maybe even more. If you're not ready to pull your weight and put in the work. See, marriage is about two very imperfect people. It's not about the PhDs. It's not about being a psychologist thinking you know relationships. No. That is why you see some of your friends, you didn't regard them as nothing, but they're in long relationships and marriages. And you're wondering, who is this person? You think you know it all, but here you are. No judgment here. I'm speaking even to myself. Because it takes two imperfect people who are, listen, willing and humble enough to work on things day by day. That's what's going to get you there. Not what you think you know. or not what your friends and family think they know. I'm gonna end it here. It's a bit emotional, but I hope you don't take offense to anything I said. My longing, my deep longing is to see myself and everybody else that I care about in happy, successful relationships. This is from the bottom of my heart. And I hope you take this message in good faith.